Today on Commander Replay, Licia Sanguine Tribune goes head-to-head with Zergo Helm Smasher, Saskia the Unyielding, and Ramos Dragon Engine. Can Licia gain enough life to survive the onslaught from Zergo and Saskia? Find out next on Commander Replay. Back everyone, playing some Licia Sanguine Tribune today. Let's take a look at our opening hand. We have two lands. We have two swords. The swords are nice, but we're a little short on land. We're going to mulligan that. This hand will be much better, I think. We'll go ahead and keep that. So, you guys don't even know. This has got to be the 10th or 11th time I've tried to film this game, and I have not gotten good games worth showing very much, so it has been a struggle. Part of that was due to how I had the deck built. I don't think I had it built in the best way possible. I was trying to go like half Voltron, half life gain tribal kind of thing, and that just really wasn't working out super well. With this particular deck, I think you really need to be all Voltron or all life gain. I think it's very hard to do both. I don't see a reason to play our Mana Crypt this turn. We'll hang on to the Mana Crypt this turn just so we can avoid potential life loss, but we will drop down this Plains and play the land tax. And that will complete our turn. We should have went with one of the fetches there, got a dual land. We would have been able to get Kalitas down on turn 2 with the Mana Crypt, but that is no longer going to happen because of the colors. Oops. Opponent lays down a Mosswort Bridge. They're going to hide something away. Back to our turn, we get a land tax trigger. I'm not going to go crazy right here because there's not a ton of basics in our deck. I will pull 2 lands and stop right there since right now I'm not super interested in discarding lands to hand size. So we'll play the Wooded Foothills. We'll play the Mana Crypt just to avoid discarding the hand size. And right here, we will crack the Wooded Foothills. We can go for a tap land since we're not doing anything this turn. We'll get a Smoldering Marsh and pass the turn. Let's take a look at what our opponents are playing. So first up, we have Zergo Helm Smasher is 2, a red, a white, and a black for a 7/2 with haste. Must attack each combat if able, has indestructible as long as it's your turn, and whenever a creature dealt damage by Zergo dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Zergo. So Zergo, usually a very aggressive Voltron deck, but with a lot of really good removal because it's Mardu. Mardu has some of the best removal in the game, so they're not going to play a lot of creatures, but Zergo will be very threatening, and it'll be backed up by a lot of good removal spells. So opponent plays Sakura Tribe Elder, and is going to sack their Sakura Tribe Elder for a land. Next up, we have Saskia the Unyielding. We played Saskia on the channel a little bit. I'll post those games in the description below. So Saskia is a black, a red, a green, and a white for a 3/4 with vigilance and haste. When it enters the battlefield, choose a player. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, it also deals that much to the chosen player. So, very cool commander. I was a little worried that it was going to be too bland when it first came out, but it does present an interesting decision that you have to make of which opponent you're going to choose with the ability, because if it's the opponent that you can easily attack, basically you're getting double damage against that opponent. Hey, we won the flip for Mana Crypt, how about that? But if you see an opponent that's going to be very difficult to attack with a lot of pillow fort effects, choosing them with Saskia can be a really good idea. I'm going to go with 1 right here. Yeah, I'm just going to go with 1 land right here. We'll get a swamp. We draw a White Sun's Passage. Not super helpful being that we already have the Chatplain's Blessing in our hand. And you might be asking why I'm running these cards. And basically, these are essentially like dark rituals for our commander. We can get our commander into play much faster with these kind of cards, which you wouldn't normally play. These are by no means commander staples. Unfortunately, we're still 1 colored off, so we'll be able to get our commander down next turn. The question is, what do we want to do this turn? And this turn, I actually kind of like the Archangel of Thune, so let's do that. I'm going to get the fetch land down and crack the fetch land. Go find one of our duels. We'll go for the plateau right here. And let's get down the Archangel of Thune and pass the turn. So like I said, one of the things I found is that you want to get Licia into play very quickly, at least for the Voltron build of Licia. But paying full cost for her or anything close to full cost, a lot of games are close to ending before you can even get her into play. So these things like Chatplain's Blessing and White Sun's Passage do actually help you quite a bit to get your commander down in a reasonable amount of time. Opponent's going to Rakdos Charm our Mana Crypt, and then follow it up with a Night's Whisper, so they're going to draw some cards, lose some life. As much as I would have liked to keep the Mana Crypt, that's not going to set us back too much, at least for our next turn, since we can still get our commander into play, and that's really what I was looking to do. So Somberwald Sage coming into play for our opponent. Add 3 mana of any color, and spend that mana only to cast creature spells. Finishing up on our opponents, finally we have Ramos Dragon Engine, is 6 colorless for a 4/4 flying. Whenever you cast a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Ramos for each color of that spell's colors. You may remove 5 +1/+1 counters to add 2 of each mana color to your mana pool. That's white, white, blue, blue, black, black, red, red, green, green. I haven't seen a lot of Ramos since it's one of the new Commander 2017 commanders, but from what I've seen, it's generally some sort of spell-based combo kind of deck, so we'll need to be careful about that. That's a style of deck that we do not interact with particularly well. The Ramos also gets down an Oracle of Moldiah, showing a Nicol Bolas Planeswalker on top of their deck, which is really bad news. We will use the land tax ability. We can go for 2 this turn, and we draw an Ancient Tomb. Not really what I was looking for right there, but it's the card we got. So right here, I'll play the Plains. Oh, I forgot we had the Archangel of Thune out. I'm going to play our commander first and then attack with the Archangel. We can get the extra +1/+1 counter on our commander. So play Chatplain's Blessing. That's going to put a counter on our Archangel of Thune. Then we're going to cast our commander. And I'm going to attack Ramos because Ramos is the deck that we're not going to be able to interact with Ramos super well. So killing Ramos quickly is going to be the plan on this one. So Archangel's going to hit, we're going to gain some life, and that's also going to put a +1/+1 counter on each of our creatures. Very cool. And I almost forgot, but luckily I did not. We are going to pay 5 life and put some counters on Licia. Now an 8/8, and that will complete our turn. Unfortunately, I did not calculate my lands correctly while land taxing, so we'll discard the mountain. Sword of Feast and Famine for the Zergo opponent. That's actually a little bit problematic because that means our commander can't block Zergo. Also, the abilities on Feast and Famine are very, very powerful. In a way, it almost kind of doubles your mana, or close to doubles your mana, depending on how many mana rocks you have out, but very powerful. Ashen Rider coming into play. Oh, we're at that point of the game already? See what they decide to exile. Gonna exile our Archangel of Thune. Not great. Was hoping it was going to be the sword, but not to be. And the Ramos is showing a Terastodon on top of their deck. So Ramos' opponent looks very problematic. A lot of really powerful cards in their hand and on top of their deck. I mean, one thing we could do, we could play this Wrath of God, and then the Ashen Rider could blow up something else. Hopefully the sword. Luckily, opponent's been missing with the Oracle of Moldiah and not catching lands off the top. I'm sure they'll find some eventually, but it does help that they're not at like 10 lands already. That does happen once in a while with Oracle. So opponent's going to play Swiftfoot Boots and equip it to the Oracle of Moldiah, giving it a little protection. Oracle's going to swing into the Zergo opponent. Opponent says they have the ability to double strike my commander next turn. That's a thing. How much do we land tax for? We'll land tax for 1. We draw a Swords to Plowshares. That'll be helpful against the Terastodon. No one needs a Terastodon hanging around. We are unfortunately up to 9 cards in hand. Probably shouldn't have land taxed, honestly. So for now, we'll play the Swamp, pump up our commander, and swing into the Ramos opponent, since they are showing some very threatening cards. Opponent's going to Temur Battle Rage our Licia. That's actually a card I hadn't thought about. That would actually be very good in our deck. And Ramos goes down. Nice. Oh my god, we just saved ourselves such a big headache with that line of play. Terastodon and Nicol Bolas Planeswalker. All bad, bad news. What to do right here? So next we'll get down our Kalitas. And we'll leave up some mana for Swords to Plowshares. Opponent's going to cast Merciless Eviction, exiling all creatures. Nothing we can do. I would have loved to have not cast the Kalitas into that, but that's where we're at. So like I said, Mardu has very, very good removal. I would be surprised if that's the last removal spell that the Zergo player plays in this game. Sylvok Explorer coming into play for the Saskia opponent. Saskia comes into play, choosing us, I assume. No, actually chooses the Zergo opponent. Interesting. Saskia's going to hit. I'm not going to burn the swords here. I feel like we can do better with the swords. We'll wait till it actually matters. Also, we have the Wrath of God, so if things get out of control, we can just Wrath of God. We'll land tax for 1. We draw a Sword of Feast and Famine. That'll be helpful. I feel like getting down the Ancient Tomb is probably the best idea right here. We need to do some math. Lycia's 10 to get back into play. If we do that, this will reduce our cost by 5. That means we'll need 5 left. So we have exactly enough. So White Sun's Passage, gain 5 life. Then cast our commander. So Lycia back into play, and we'll pay 5 life, put some more counters on there. We're down to 54, and pass the turn. Worn Power Stone for the Zergo opponent, and a Burnished Heart for the Zergo opponent, so all of the mana ramp. Although the Burnished Heart with the Sword of Feast and Famine could actually do some work for them. There's an Anguished Unmaking on our commander. That's kind of annoying. And a Dauntless Escort for our opponent. That makes our Wrath of God way less good. So opponent's going to hit us down to 50 and going to put some damage on the Zergo opponent. We're going to get another land tax trigger. And we will go ahead and get our last basic land. We draw a Cataclysm. To play Cataclysm, you need to have the biggest threat in play. And we do not have the biggest threat in play right now, so Cataclysm will be off the table for a little while. It means Lycia is going to be a whopping 12 to cast. And so this is one of the problems with this deck. If she dies a couple times and you run out of ways to gain life, Ugh, she's very hard to recast. So we're back up to 9 cards in hand. I don't love this, but I think the play that we do, we'll drop down our planes. We're not in danger of dying at this exact second, so we can do some stuff on the end step that I think will work out much better for us. So for now, we'll just get down this Sword of Feast and Famine and pass the turn. Orzhov Signet for the Zergo opponent. So opponent's going to swing the Burnished Heart at the Saskia opponent. Opponent sending a message. Opponent is questioning the line of attack there. I mean, we're at 50, but we've got a lot of nothing really going on right now, so that's kind of a thing. Opponent's going to get a sword trigger. They're going to sack their Burnished Heart in response. I thought they would make some line of play like that, and I think for the moment we can F6. They'll get to find some lands, bring them into play tapped, and then untap them with the Sword of Feast and Famine. Very cool trick. On our next turn, we'll have 9 mana available to us, which still puts us 3 short of being able to cast Licia, assuming no life gain. Zergo Helm Smasher coming into play, and is going to equip up the Sword of Feast and Famine on the Zergo. Yavimaya Elder coming into play for Saskia. Saskia was low on cards, so card draw will be very helpful to them at this point, and also just the ability to make their next couple land drops as well. So Saskia goes back up to 3 cards. I felt much better when they were at 0. Ooh, that's a Skull Clamp. Ugh. Opponent's going to put the Skull Clamp on their Saskia. This will put us to 10 commander damage, which is the more relevant number. We gain enough life that normal combat damage isn't that scary to us. We will need to be a little bit careful. But commander damage is the thing that is way more concerning in a deck like this. So we go to 10 commander, and the Zergo opponent is down to 19. And the way that this is going, because we don't really have a lot going on, I think Zergo is forced into killing the Saskia opponent, because the Saskia opponent will kill them based on the damage that they're doing to us. So I think that puts the Zergo in a sort of precarious position where they do need to attack the Saskia just to survive. So Saskia's going to equip up the Skull Clamp on their Sylvok Explorer, draw more cards, goes back up to 3 cards. I'm going to hold on to the Swords of Plowshares for now. It will give us protection against the Zergo, which is really important. We are all out of basic lands in our deck, so no need to land tax. We draw a City of Brass, which is not helpful at all. Card draw is what we wanted right there. So play a land, still not in a position to cast his Cataclysm, or cast our commander, or really do much of anything at this point, so pass the turn. Yawgmoth's Will, huh? Well, let's see what opponent does. Gonna start with a Night's Whisper. Gonna put a Temur Battle Rage on their Zergo. Zergo good for 18 damage right now. Not quite lethal, but very, very close. Opponent's going to play a Temple of Malice, get to Scry, and opponent's going to recast their Burnished Heart. Decides to attack the Saskia opponent, thank God, because I really don't want to burn the Swords of Plowshares right here, and also that'll work towards solving the Saskia problem that we have currently, of which they keep attacking us every turn. So opponent's going to tap all their lands with Feast and Famine. Saskia has to discard a card, discards a land. I mean, for the most part, I really enjoy the old dual land art, but the art on this one is pretty cool. Kind of like that. But 9 times out of 10, I do prefer the old original art that came on them. See what opponent's got. Going to destroy target artifact. They're going to destroy the Skull Clamp. That means that Saskia can't draw 10 cards a turn, so that's helpful. I was worried that they were going to go after our Feast and Famine with the Rakdos Charm, but we got lucky right there, so that is nice. Opponent's going to crack their Burnished Heart again, find some more lands. Zergo has a lot of lands. Again, we're still not in a position for this Cataclysm, but if we were, and there's a Wear Tear on our land tax and our Feast and Famine. I was going to be leaning on that Feast and Famine pretty heavily to get past this Zergo, so that is a pretty big deal. Ooh, double strike, right. So Zergo untaps their lands again. Pretty good turn out of the Zergo player. And opponent's going to recast the Merciless Eviction, exiling all creatures. Opponent's going to sack their Dauntless Escort in response. I thought that line of play might happen, so that's why I'm holding on to all of our removal, because I had a good feeling that we'd be able to get away with not casting our removal yet, and being able to save it for later. So that did work out for us. We lost our Feast and Famine in the process, which I would have really liked to have kept, but ooh, that's a Combat Celebrant. Opponent's going to put the sword on the Combat Celebrant. And back to Saskia's turn. Opponent's going to recast their Hideaway land. So this turn will be up to 10 lands, and that still puts us 2 short of Licia. So Saskia back into play. So Saskia player chooses the Zergo opponent again with Saskia. And going to swing into us. Yeah, we'll just take that. 13 commander for us. We draw a True Conviction. We could cast the Wrath of God right here. This is a tricky spot. So Zergo comes back into play, going to get 2 combat steps with the Combat Celebrant. If we Wrath of God, then Zergo has a clear shot at the Saskia opponent, but we're still a ways away from actually being able to get back into this game. So, oh man. Well, the first thing I know that we can do, we're just going to play our True Conviction since we don't have much else to do. And with that, I'm going to keep holding on to the board wipe. I really want the Saskia and the Zergo to expend as much of their resources as possible trying to kill each other while we just kind of sit back and hoard our resources as much as we can. So opponent's going to equip up the sword, just like I thought they would. See where they decide to point it. That's a Fire Shrieker. So Zergo's now has double strike. Can equip up the Fire Shrieker. So right now we don't have answers to the Feast and Famine or the Fire Shrieker, and those are both problematic. I am tempted to let the Saskia player live, which is not something that I do very often. So opponent's going to attack with the Combat Celebrant, and they are going to exert. Right here, I think it behooves us to save the Saskia opponent, because we don't have a clear path to victory right now, and keeping Saskia alive I think will be a very good thing for us. I mean, it may very well kill us in the end, but by letting Saskia die, I don't think we have any shot at winning. You guys should go watch through all my videos. It is very rare that I will save another player when I have the opportunity to do so. That is not something that I typically do. Typically, being the aggressive player, I want people to get attacked and I want people out of the game as quickly as possible, so it is just really, really rare for me to save an opponent like I just did. An opponent lays down 2 gods this turn. That's going to be a thing. Iroas and Nylea. Fortunately, they're not creatures, but still, the Trample and the Menace and Indestructible while attacking are pretty good. Really, I was just kind of hoping that Saskia would draw into some artifact removal for the Fire Shrieker and the Sword of Feast and Famine. So Saskia attacks into us again. Kind of would have preferred if they attacked the Zergo opponent straight out just to lower their life total a bit more. Opponent said, lol, he saved you and you're still trying to kill him. Yeah, it kind of sucks. Oh, we draw another land. All of the lands. Where's the card draw? We are up to 11. Next turn, we can recast our commander. That'll be exciting. I'm worried that there may not be a next turn, though. That's sort of a concern. So, the Combat Celebrant won't untap, which is good. Opponent will recast Zergo. Zergo, I believe, will cost 9 this turn. Let's check out their mana. That's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh yeah, the opponent has enough mana to cast the Zergo and equip both of their equipments and swing all in the same shot. The only thing we could do to stop that is Cataclysm, but that does not seem like the answer right now either. I think our opponents will recover from Cataclysm much faster than we will. I think we're on the hope we stay alive until next turn plan. I think that's all we've got going so far. Hero's Blade for our opponent. That makes Zergo lethal in one swing to us. That's a big problem. So Zergo comes back into play, Hero's Blade gets equipped, Sword of Feast and Famine gets equipped, and Fire Shrieker gets equipped. Who does he go after? Yeah, it's coming after us. All out of tricks. So that's gonna, we're gonna discard, that's gonna be the game. And we go down to commander damage from Zergo. So maybe we did need to play the Cataclysm right there and really draw the game out, but that's also kind of a dick thing to do. I don't like playing cards like that if I don't have a win condition out. I don't normally watch the end of the game, but I'm gonna watch the rest of this game just to see what happens. Both opponents are at pretty low life totals. Zergo is very, very lethal. I wonder if Saskia draws into anything that can get them out of it. So opponent in the think tank for a very long time. Gonna pump up their Saskia. Gonna pump up their Saskia again. They are definitely gonna be short on damage. So all those attacks into us made it so the Saskia opponent couldn't win. Had they put just a little bit more damage on Zergo, they would have been able to take down Zergo right there. So always be very mindful about where you're sending your attacks in relation to who's the threat. Later in the game, we weren't really a threat. We weren't doing anything. Where Zergo was very clearly the threat, and opponent was putting damage on both of us, I get it, but like, the Zergo was clearly the very big threat, and we just weren't doing nearly as much, so it probably would have made sense for them to start attacking the Zergo more, and trying to whittle down their life total much faster. But anyway, I think this game is a pretty good representation of where this deck is at right now. You can get Licia into play very quickly, but the thing that I don't like is that you have to rely on cards like White Sun's Passage, Chaplain's Blessing to do it. Occasionally you'll get like a Blind Obedience and you can get an Extort trigger or something like that, but you're basically relying on having another card just to be able to cast your commander in some sort of timely manner. And when you consider that Licia cost 8 to cast, her abilities just aren't worth 8 mana. Let alone like we saw in the game that we just played, if she dies a couple times, she goes up to 10 mana, then 12 mana. It's really hard to recast her. So as much as the cost reduction is cool and flavorful, it actually makes her a very hard card to play because you have to rely on other cards just to be able to cast your commander, and casting your commander with Licia doesn't automatically win the game. And so the other reason that I decided to show this game is because we were facing both Zergo and Saskia, and Zergo and Saskia do what Licia wants to do, but much more efficiently. So with Licia, you have to use up a lot of deck slots for life gain just to be able to cast your commander, where if you're playing Zergo, Zergo can use all those deck spots on removal or equipments, so everything they're doing is really impactful to the board. And it kind of showed in this game. They played a ton of removal. The Licia deck just can't support that much removal because you need the life gain just to get your commander down. Like I said early on, this is probably the 10th or 11th game that I've tried to film with Licia, and from what I can tell, she's just not that great. She's just so expensive to cast. Her abilities don't perform to the large amount of mana or resources that you need to spend just to be able to cast your commander. Now, when she's in play, she is very powerful, and within a couple turns, she's easily the biggest thing out there, but still, she gets chump blocked by tokens, so again, now you're relying on more cards just to have some sort of evasion. You're relying on some life gain just to cast your commander, then you're relying on finding equipments or other things that'll give you evasion so that you can actually get combat damage through, and then you need something like Double Strike just to make it so you're lethal in one swing. So you're relying on putting a lot of different pieces together all at the same time and hoping that your opponents don't have removal for any of that stuff, which very often they will. So after 10 or 11 games, I'm really not in love with Licia. I thought I would be. I thought she would be a much cooler commander, but after playing with her, it's just been tough and frustrating. And I'm actually pretty happy to be done with this video. I really wanted to start messing around with some other decks from the Commander 2017 commanders, and I've been stuck basically for the last week just trying to figure out how to make this damn deck work. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching.